Hi, this is Michael Buffer, and welcome to the BoxHard Podcast.
Hello, everyone. This is Mikey Garcia.
It's the monster from the swamps, Regis Rougarou Prograis.
Hey, what's up? This is King Carlos Molina, former IBF world champ.
This is Michael, the Bounty Hunter, 2012 Olympian and your people's champ.
This is Charlie Edwards, flyweight champion of the world.
This is Fast Eddie Chambers, and you're listening to the BoxHard Podcast with my main man, Joey Coastman.
Hello everybody and welcome to episode 277 of the BoxHard Podcast. I'm your host Joey Coastman. I'm joined as ever it would seem by the former heavyweight world title challenger, one of my very good friends. It is of course Mr. Fast Eddie Chambers. Eddie, how you doing, my man?
I'm doing great, man. How about yourself?
All good, my friend. Always good when speaking with you. This week's show will be pretty much back to normal, I guess, in terms of the layout. It's going to start with the review part. Then we're going to do the news in part one. Then we're going to welcome our first guest, which will be the reigning WBO Super-Featherweight world champion, Jamel Herring. We speak to him, of course, before his fight later this month against Carl Frampton in London. Then we will start part two with the preview part, and we will also do the Lockdown Knockdown, which Eddie speaks about, the time he came to the UK and had a bunch of fights over here, the time he knocked someone out for the first time in a few years, and then the show will end on an interview with the undefeated 3-0 prospect from Mayweather Promotions, Malik Warren. He's 3-0 with 3 KOs. He's been out the ring for just over a year, and he returns to action very soon, so we'll be speaking to him, and it's good to have a prospect on because we haven't had a prospect on for a long time. But anyway, with no further ado, let's get on to the review part. We're going to start here. Last week on Friday at the Next Door Arena. It could have been next door, but no, it was in Tanzania. Over here, one fight to mention, we had a guy called Vikapita Mororo. He is now 29-10. He was TKO'd in the 9th round against Tavel Pulev. That's the younger brother of Kubrat. He's now 16-0 with 13 KOs. He is a cruiserweight. And yeah, he's 38 years of age now, just turned 38 in January, Tavel Pulev. Not quite sure he's going to be able to do anything in the sport because he is quite up there in age in terms of, he hasn't really had many fights and he's up there in age, like I say. Moving now to the Seminole Hard Rock Hotel and Casino in Hollywood, Florida, USA. The Don King Promotions card. And it was very, very strange and unique, just typical Don King style. I'm taking a guess here, Eddie, and saying you probably didn't watch this.
Oh, who was on the card?
It was, Don King when Stavern fought Trevor Bryan.
Oh no, I don't think I seen that. No.
Okay,
obviously no, because I did watch something. I did watch one of the fights Saturday. Obviously the one that most people probably watch, but yeah, it was interesting. But no, I guess not the Don King one.
Okay.
But go ahead, I'm listening.
I didn't actually see it either, and I've heard, I think it was about $20 to watch this card. So I didn't watch it, and I'm going to tell the listeners and yourself a few things that apparently happened on this card here. So firstly, Don King had quite an interesting ring mat. On his ring mat, he had the words, "Only in America, I love the American people, I love America, we shall overcome." That was his message on the ring mat there. Nate Campbell, he's been on the show during the lockdown. We spoke to him at some point in 2020. Great interview with Nate Campbell. I like the guy. He was doing the commentary, and at one point he apparently said that any man who has a back tattoo can take a punch, which a lot of people were laughing at that one. There was also a fight on the card in which the announcer said that all 3 judges had the fight exactly the same. It was a 4-round contest where apparently all 3 judges had it 40-39, which means that there were 3 10-10 rounds on all 3 judges' scorecards. So I think there must have been a mix-up there. And apparently, after again, this is not confirmed. This is just something that someone told me. Apparently, after doing the introductions, they introduced the fighters for the main event. They didn't bring out the fighters straight away. They decided to announce them to the ring before they came out, and then decided to put on a fight between Julio Cesar Chavez and Frankie Randall. Some old footage, which is just bizarre. But anyway, you know how Don King is. Anyway, getting on to the actual fights themselves, nothing really worth mentioning on the undercard, but the main event, Berchelt 25-4 with a draw going in. It was for the vacant WBA World Heavyweight title, which is another thing that's really bizarre. I'm not sure what's gone on there. I don't know if Char has been stripped or there's been some new belt that the WBA have brought in for some kind of period. I have got no idea. People are in uproar that there was a title on the line here, especially when Berchelt hasn't won a fight since he beat Derek Rossi just over 5 years ago. So he was fighting for a vacant world title. Trevor Bryan, obviously 20-0 going in with 15 KOs. He was able to get the knockout in the 11th round. Trevor Bryan knocks out Berchelt in the 11th round of a scheduled 12. Stavern was down twice in the fight as well. And Trevor Bryan now 21-0. He's the WBA World Heavyweight Champion. The less said on that, the better. The less said on that, the better. Sorry, Eddie, what'd you say?
I said, wow. Really?
Yep.
Are you kidding me?
He did well. He did well to knock out Stavern, though. I think that's not no easy thing to do. I don't think.
I mean, I don't know, man. And then I'm not trying to say Derek Rossi's not, was not a quality opponent or anything like that for him. I mean, but for me, Derek is. And I'm going to go on record saying he was a tough guy. You know what I mean? He fought to his full potential. He did everything he could. And for him to be able to do what he did, almost knocking out Stavern, is a good thing. I'm not saying it wasn't, but when I seen that happen and he was in there fighting a guy like Derek, I would assume, now I'm once again not knocking myself down, but I would assume that he's a little on the downside of, Derek was beating him that easily. And if the decision was that close and he almost got knocked out in the fight, So, I mean, I don't know. I'm not sure what the situation is with him now. But for Trevor Bryan to stop him, being, I guess he's a pretty good puncher, I wouldn't think it would be too far out of the realm of possibilities. You know what I mean? Just considering where he is now in his career, Stavern I'm talking about.
Yeah. Well, anyway, like we say, the less said, the better. I think that's probably the end of the road for Stavern. He's now 42 years of age, but he has had 3 fights for world titles in his last 5 fights, which is mad. He lost, obviously, to Deontay Wilder on points in 2015. He came back with that fight against Derek Rossi, in which he won. Then he came back, got stopped by Wilder again for the world title in the first round. Then he came back and got stopped over here to Joe Joyce, and then he's come back after almost 2 entire years out of the ring to box Trevor Bryan, and he lost the fight. But anyway, all the best to Big Beware. I do actually like Berchelt. He's a nice guy. Anyway, moving out now to Australia at the Entertainment Centre in New South Wales. Friend of the show, Billy Dibb, now 47-6. He was indeed fighting a debutant who I think was a pro kickboxer / Muay Thai fighter, or boxer or whatever. Billy Dibb was able to stop him in round 7 of their fight there. So all the best there to Billy Dibb. Moving out now to... Let's go out stateside to that fight. I think it's probably the only one left really worth mentioning. Caleb versus Caleb for the IBF World Super Middleweight title. Plant defended successfully his title. 21-0 now. Caleb Truax in the other corner. 31-5 now with 2 draws. It pretty much went the way I thought it'd go. I thought Caleb Truax would would tough it out. And Caleb Plant is the all-round better fighter. He is the guy that's young, that's sharp, that's still kind of on the come up. I think Caleb Truex has had his time, and he's a good fighter. He's a good guy. I don't mean that harshly for Truex, but Caleb Plant, I always thought would do quite well to stop Truex because he has been in there with some top quality guys. I remember his first loss came to Jermaine Taylor. I mean, that's a name from the past almost. But Caleb Plant with an expected win, I think. Tell me about that one, Eddie.
Oh man, it was good. It was interesting. I mean, right from the get-go, in my opinion, you could see the level of talent and speed and just overall ability in general was with Caleb Plant. Caleb Truex, you could see, was the kind of guy that was going to have to tough it out, like you said. He was going to have to be, if he could be, busy and in his face and willing to take one or two to give one. You know what I mean? But I just don't think he had enough pop to really, not say get the respect, because I think you can get the respect from Caleb Plant if he landed some good shots, but to get him out of there, maybe one shot, two shots, or just being the kind of, being overly aggressive, not overly aggressive, being aggressive and just landing good shots. I just didn't think that he was going to be able to do it. Plus, Caleb Plant was a little it was definitely too fast. A little bit, his ring savvy was a little too much that, for Caleb Truex at this point. So, I mean, it went just like you would expect it to go. After a while, you would start to think, and this is what a lot of the guys that are commentating and just different people over the years would have thought, is that the further the fight goes, the worse it's going to be for Caleb Plant, not because, the guy's going to become dangerous late, but because he's not stopping him. You know what I mean? Most people are like, yo, you got to stop this guy now. You know what I mean? You've done everything else to him. You're outclassing him. You're the better fighter. You're the younger fighter. You got all these things in your favor. Why are you not stopping this guy before the bell's over, before the fight's over? You understand what I'm saying? And then, so don't get me wrong. Like, I appreciated what he did, but there's going to be people out there that are going to say, oh, I don't know about his power, or I don't know about his finishing ability. There's always going to be detractors. So, but I thought he looked great. I thought he did what he's supposed to do. And then I think he had broke his hand or hurt his hand during the course of the fight too, which obviously played a part in him not getting him out of there. But he looked good out there. He did what he was supposed to. Jab. At one point he led 5 or 6 jabs straight, just bang, clean. And you could just see the speed advantage and skill advantage was just so far in his favor. And I think the sky's the limit for him. He's got to be careful who he runs into and at what time he does. But he's a good young fighter, and he should do well going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. There are many big fights for him down the line. I'm going to run through my assessment real quick. The first round, I felt that Caleb Plant won the round. It was just pretty much a feel-out round. Truex was struggling to land anything of note. Plant was just popping out the jab nice and consistently. Round 2, more of the same really. Plant had success with his left hook towards the end of the round. Truex was struggling to get in range. He was choosing to stand on the outside. But it's like his arms weren't really long enough. I didn't think that was ever going to be his game. Round 3, Caleb Plant was beating Truex to the punch. Truex's timing looked really off to me. He was also just looking really basic, really, amateurish. Round 4, Plant started to bust Truex up. Truex had a bloodied up nose. Truex had no answer for Plant's left hand, whether that be a hook or an uppercut or a jab. He couldn't see it coming at any point. Not that his eye was closed up or anything like that. He just couldn't see. He couldn't block it at all. It was quite disappointing really from Truex at that point. I was starting to think he looks quite old, even perhaps a bit shot maybe. Round 5 and 6 were pretty much the same again. Round 7 the same again. Lackluster performance from Truex. Plant was doing whatever he wanted to do. The stoppage looked like it could have came, but Plant didn't seem to really want to take any unnecessary risks, and I completely understand that. Especially when there's no fans in attendance as well, by the way. Round 8, probably the best round of the fight. Truex finally went balls to the wall a tiny bit. I still think Plant won the round. Round 9, 10, 11 and 12 were pretty much exactly the same. Plant on my card, 120, 108. Just as I expected, but perhaps not as easy as I thought it would be. A complete shutout, like I say. I think Truex should probably retire. which I know can sound harsh. He was on the show a few weeks ago. Like I say, one of the coolest guys. I really like the guy, but he had nothing. Not even one thing over Plant. He looked slow. His timing was bad, like I say. He looked like he didn't have much power. He didn't look like he had any variety. It was just up and down, basic, slow feet, bad defense, and he just looked washed up. He had nothing. I don't want to see him stick around in this sport too long and start getting knocked out. He's lucky, I think, that Plant wasn't a bigger puncher. I think Plant outlanded him at the end on the punch stats by about 3 times the amount what Truex landed, which is crazy. And yeah, what's next for Caleb Plant? I mean, there are big fights for him out there. There's still talk of the Canelo fight, but it looks like Canelo's going to be boxing Billy Joe Saunders before that. So who should he fight in the interim? It's a mad one, really, Eddie, and I don't want to go too off topic here speaking about Plant and what he may do or may not do, but he's in a position where I think some people are getting a little bit sick and tired of him because he went in there, he beat Jose Uzcategui for the world title. That was such a brilliant, impressive performance because Uzcategui was a guy that was avoided. He was a guy that, obviously fought, I think it was Anthony or Andre Durrell. I think it was Andre Durrell. And, Uzcategui was a bit of a danger man. There's talk that James DeGale vacated the belt because he didn't want to fight him. Then, Caleb Plant gets in there, drops him a couple of times, beats him unanimously in the end, really dominated him. And then his defences since then have been quite poor. He boxed Mike Lee. Yeah, he was undefeated, but he'd never been at that level. He stopped him in 3 rounds. It wasn't the most exciting thing. The press conferences were actually more kind of exciting, I think, than that fight. Then he boxed Germany's Vincent Feigenbutz, who, not everyone's a big fan of his. He's quite basic, to be honest with you. And then he's fought Caleb Truex, a fight where not many people gave Truex a chance. I tried to when Truex was on the show, I tried to be honest with him and say, look, you've got a chance here because you've fought the much better people than Plant. You're probably the best opponent Plant has fought. Because, like I said, his defences had been quite poor. And it's a name for his resume. It definitely is. It's a good name. It's probably his best win, actually, Caleb Plant. But it wasn't a blow your socks off type of win again. And unfortunately, I don't think he's going to risk it in his next fight, which he'll need to have another fight before. If he does end up getting the Canelo golden ticket later on in the year, he's going to have to fight because Canelo's fighting at the end of this month. Then he's got this fight with Billy Joe, I think, in May. He's going to probably fight again at some point in the later part of the year. But there's going to have to be a fight for Caleb Plant in that interim period. And I don't think it's going to be against someone who he could risk getting that big payday. So it's going to be another guy that is considered a bit of a weak defence. I don't know if I've asked you a question in there or anything. It's just a bit of a sticky situation he's found himself in, I think.
Yeah, you mean with Caleb Plant? Yeah, it's going to be tough. You know what I mean? And for me, it's like looking at once you've had such quote unquote soft competition, to then all of a sudden take it from there and shoot it all the way up to Canelo is going to be kind of like a process to really to really deal with. So, but then you don't want to take, like you said, in the interim before that actually happens or before there's time for another fight in between. You don't, like you said, you don't want to take anything too risky because you don't want to ruin your opportunity. But you don't want to go in there with Canelo unprepared. So it is like it is a little, what do you do? You know what I mean? What do you do? If I'm him, you got to take it easy. You got to take it easy because you're not trying to ruin your opportunity. You know what I mean? Get in there with somebody that you know that is, a challenge enough to, that can get in there and then people, they will okay. But to just try to like get in there with a real quality opponent, like another top fighter, another champion or something like that would not be a good idea. It would not be advisable at this point. So if he's going to get the Canelo fight, just get ready for that. You know what I mean? Get another guy in there who's going to give you some work, something like a Truex, something at that level, and just handle business and be ready for Canelo when it's time. It's a tough thing, man. Like, for me, it's like I like you see my journey. You know what I mean? From before I fought Vladimir. So There was no every each one of those fights were dangerous. So I was just working my way toward them. That's the way I looked at it. But for these guys nowadays, you have to be careful. You got to make sure you keep your record intact and and the ability to obviously fight the guy that you're looking to fight as far as like a big money fight. You got to just keep it intact. So that's the way. I mean, listen to going off of what you're saying, basically, Joe. He has to do it. He has to do that.
Yeah, and concentrating on the undercard a little bit here. A good win on the undercard for Joey Spencer. He's now 12-0. A good knockout for him in the very first round against Isaiah Seldon, who also had 2 points deducted for an intentional foul hitting behind the head in the very first round, and he was down twice in that first round, so he was stopped there. Isaiah Seldon, who's now 14-4 with a draw. A bit of trivia here: he is the son of former WBA heavyweight world champion Bruce Seldon, so he was brutally knocked out there. Rancis Barthélemy, he picked up a win, another boring win, unfortunately for him. He's 28-1 with a draw, a complete shutout against Ali Rivera, who's now 21-5. That was over 10 rounds. And Michael Polite Coffey, a win for him, a KO in the third round against Damani Rock. Both men, like I say, were undefeated going in. Polite Coffee now 12-0. Damani Rock down twice in that third round, and it was waved off by referee Jack Reese. Quite disappointing from Damani Rock. He looked like he was in shocking shape, really bad shape. But I raced onto his box rec because I was thinking surely that's probably the career heaviest he's ever come in at because he looked awful. But to my surprise, and you've seen the fight, Eddie, so you said, yeah, I'm guessing you think he came in bad shape as well. That is actually the lightest he has weighed since 2017. And in that time, he's had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 other fights where he's weighed heavier than he did on Saturday night, which is bizarre.
Wow.
Because he was, just to let you know the numbers, he was 261 on Saturday night. He's actually weighed in 2019 as high as 289.
What? 289? Listen, I know the kid, really talented, box well in the gym with me. I was trying to work with him and, help him out different ways with, just information, just helping him with sparring, getting him ready for fights. But I've always heard things about, his out the ring life was a little bit turbulent. So, it's always like, I don't know, he's got the size, he's got the skill, the speed, all of those things he would have, right? But he obviously doesn't train properly. And I didn't realize how bad how bad a condition he was in until I saw the fight. And I'm like, Jesus Christ. I'm like, now, I didn't know what you just told me, Joe, is that he was even worse in other fights. So what I'm thinking is, damn, he probably did train for this fight. Just not nowhere. He just didn't train enough, or he didn't train enough in the past. He hasn't done enough, period. And even back when I was working with him, back when he was an amateur, he was lighter than that. He was in the 250s, late 240s. You know what I mean? Around, and it's a shame. When I look at him, it's like, you just see there's a lot of wasted talent out there, man. There's a lot of guys who can box. There's a lot of talented fighters out there, and he's just one that is disappointing, man. It's like, I'm not saying it's over for him because anything can happen. He can get back in and get himself back together. But he's got another level of experience compared to this guy, and the guy still looked like the one that actually been around more. Not saying that skill-wise he was better than Darmani, but it was just his presence in the ring, his attitude towards obviously the sport. He's a student of it from what I understand, and his body, like, it was just, you could see one guy was in there to win, and the other guy was in there just maybe for a paycheck. You understand what I'm saying? And you can't disrespect the game by doing that. Look, I have not been the most body beautiful in the world, but I will never get in the ring looking like that. And I'm not saying that that's everything, but you got to show that you have some sort of professionalism with how you present yourself. Who's going to want to put you on a cereal box looking like that? And I'm not mad at him I am mad at him for doing it because I know him and he's capable. He's so capable. But his mindset, I don't know where it is, man. I really don't. It's sad.
And unbelievably, we talk about the weight there, but Michael Polite Coffey, the winner of the fight, was actually heavier. He was 270, but of course he looked good for it. You know, he didn't have excess skin around the midsection. But I'll tell you something now. I didn't know how young Damani Rock was. I'm stunned to see how young he is. You know how old he is, Eddie?
What is he, 20 or 21 or something like that now?
No, he's 24, but I'm still shocked. I mean, he looks...
I didn't even realize he was that old. I thought he was young. I thought he was younger than that. No. But I forgot I haven't seen him in a long time now. So, yeah. I expected him to be 20. He's 24 is actually old.
Yeah, he's still young enough to turn it around and make something of his career. But, yeah, he lost to Michael Polite Coffey, who was 10 years his senior. He's 34. But anyway, that's it for the review part. It's dragged out a bit longer than I thought it would do. That's it for that. Moving on to the news. Let's see if there's anything. I'm not even sure there is, to be honest with you. What do we have? Matchroom will be returning to the SSE Arena, Wembley, for 2 events. It's going to be Josh Warrington against Maurizio Lara. So they're going to be staging that fight at the Wembley Arena. And David Avanesian against Josh Kelly. That one takes place on Feb 20. That one's going to be at the Wembley Arena as well. So both fights there, 7 days apart, the 13th and the 20th of this month, both going to be back at the Wembley Arena. And that's pretty much it, really, for the news. So that's very brief. But anyway, that's it for the reviewing. That's it for the news. The final thing to do before we wrap up part 1 here is to welcome our first guest on this week's podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the reigning WBO Super-Featherweight World Champion. It is, of course, Mr. Jamel Herring. Jamel, welcome back on the show, my brother.
Hey, it's good to be back, man. Thank you for having me, man, and also Happy New Year.
Oh, absolutely. Happy New Year right back at you, Jamel. It's always a pleasure having you on. It really is. We last spoke in September. It was just after your last fight. First and foremost, Let's start with what you just said. How was your New Year? How was your Christmas? I know you probably couldn't do too much.
Well, I actually took some time off for Christmas to go home from the family. As you know, I've been training, but when everything got pushed back a bit, it gave me a little space to go home for the holidays at least, to go spend time with the family, and then bring in the new year on a positive note.
And again, the fight that we all wanted to see for such a long time is finally happening. It was announced last week, of course, officially. February 27th in London against Carl Frampton. Now, you told me probably the first time we spoke a number of years ago that you did want to come and fight in the UK professionally. Here it is, man.
Yes. But sadly, it's not the way that, of course, that I wanted it to happen. You know, when I wanted to come up to the UK, I wanted to have that environment that I was around during the 2012 Olympic Games. But sadly, due to the pandemic, I'm hearing it could be behind closed doors again. So that means after this fight with Frampton, I got to come back again because I still want that big fight in the UK with the atmosphere in attendance.
Yeah, because I remember, again, when the fight was being spoken about, we spoke and you said that for the fight to end up in the UK, there'd probably need to be a big... like a big audience. Then obviously the pandemic came. Right. There's going to be no audience. Right. How are you still ending up in the UK? Because the only guy I can think of a champion that has actually gone to another guy's backyard, to defend his title away from home is probably Callum Smith against Canelo during this pandemic. You'll be the second guy.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of rare now to see. Even before the pandemic, as you already know, it's rare to see champions travel, especially out of America, to anywhere to defend the title. But I think my title very seriously as being a world champion. I believe I should fight all over the world if possible. So that's the one reason why I wanted to come back to the UK. And as you already know, even before the pandemic, I was even willing to go to Carl Frampton's backyard, which is Belfast, Northern Ireland.
Yeah. And I want to ask you as well, Jamel, what is your opinion of Carl as a fighter at this point in his career? Obviously, I think you've kind of got to look back respectfully, I'd look at his record and say his last great win was probably Nonito Donaire, which is quite some time ago now. It's amazing how much has changed in that time, how long ago that was now.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely, let me just say, he definitely has a respectable resume. I will say that. I give him all the credit in the world. But I mean, most people, they pointed out as well, he's not the same guy as he was maybe during those Nonito Donaire, the Quig fights, and, even during the Santa Cruz fight. But, at the end of the day, he's a hungry guy still. Also, he says he wants to make history, so I still have to prepare for the best Carl Frampton available.
And again, Carl Frampton said something about you, I think on Twitter. He took some kind of swipe about you sparring Terence Crawford. I think he said that unless Terence is going easy, you wouldn't be getting the better of the sparring. I want to point out as well, if Carl Frampton was sparring Terence Crawford, it's not like he'd be getting the better of the sparring either. But that's neither here nor there.
Exactly, but I don't. Like I said, as you know me, man, for the longest, I don't take things personal. If anything, I feel as if he's a bit worried when you hear stuff like that. When guys are too worried about what you're doing in your camp, that tells you something. And I feel that he's probably a little bit, as he called me, a little bit edgy, himself. But like I said, Bud Crawford doesn't take it easy on anyone. He's not here to boost, to make me feel good or to boost my morale. He's here to teach me some things and make sure that that I'm going in there 100%. And like I said, when we spar, we try to get the best over one another because we take what we do seriously, and we know what's on the line.
Yeah, I remember you addressed it on Twitter, and Carl came out and said that you bite to everything, and that you'd be easy to wind up. I think Jamel, I think he's got a little tiny bit of a point though.
No, you know what it is. Like me, as you already know, I'm very active on social media. So if I see something, I'm going to address it. And for the most part, I didn't get upset. I didn't get angry. I thought it was funny because, like I said, he was just paying. He's just giving me too much attention instead of worried about. I don't care who he's sparring. It's like him and Frank Warren every week got some new story. As you know, 1 minute, I'm going to struggle to make the weight. The next minute, he's better than me at this. Or now it's I'm sparring Terence Crawford, but he's taking it easy on me. But I find it funny because, like I said, that just gives me confidence because you never once heard me say anything about what he's doing in his camp because I really don't care for it.
Yeah, and that's the right attitude to have. As we said, the fight's set for February 27th. Jamel, do you know just yet when you're arriving in the UK?
Well, I plan to at least arrive 2 weeks prior, so around Valentine's Day weekend, February 14th, 13th, sometime around there. But yeah, I want to be well acclimated. I want to hopefully get to roam around the UK for a bit as well. And like I just want to be comfortable. I just want to be comfortable and prepared. But like you can hear in my voice, I'm in a good place. I'm not fighting COVID. I'm not fighting COVID. I'm not in a 5-month training camp because the fight keeps getting postponed. I'm back to I'm back training at high elevation over here in Colorado Springs. And I'm just happy. I'm just happy that I finally got the fight that I wanted. And I'm gonna make the most of it.
And I'm pleased for you to get the fight that you've wanted, Jamel. I know it's a fight you've wanted for a long time. I know you're 100% concentrated on Carl Frampton. Have you dreamt or, I don't know, looked to the future at all for any plans after this fight?
Not really. Because like I said, I still respect Carl enough to give him that respect. That I don't want to look past anybody. But I mean, like I said, I'm with M2K now, so they always have big plans in mind. But right now, I told them I just need to just focus on Frampton first, and then we can go from there afterwards. But I'm happy with my relationship with M2K, and I know that they'll have bigger things afterwards.
Absolutely. And I want to get your take on another fight, Jamel, that's taking place in your division. 7 days before your fight, Oscar Valdez challenges Miguel Berchelt for his WBC world title, a guy that you were pretty vocal about calling out as soon as you won the title. How do you see that one playing out, my man?
That's a dangerous fight for Oscar Valdez, obviously. But like the same situation I had to go through with this pandemic, you really have to see how Berchelt reacts after fighting COVID, because he had COVID not too long ago, and even though you may come up with a negative test, the effects can still play a factor in your body. So it all just comes down to it all comes down to how his body reacts to everything with the COVID. But I still think it's a dangerous fight, and you have to give the edge to Berchelt. But Valdez is hungry, so he might be seeing something that we're not seeing. And to remind you, he has a great team as well. Over there with Canelo in the game.
Yeah. We shall see. I think it's definitely going to be all action. It usually is when Valdez is fighting anyway. And just finally, Jamel, if you've got any closing words, just mainly to the UK guys that support you. There's going to be a lot of guys over here wanting you to win. You already know that I'm one of those guys. What's your message to the other guys over here?
Hey, I love and respect all you guys over there, man. Like I said, it's just a bummer that I may not get the chance to have that atmosphere, but I still plan on to put on a great show, and hopefully after the victory, I can get out and hang with some of the guys out there.
That would be unbelievable. I hope that we do get something like that going. Listen, Jamel, it really is a pleasure. You already know it's always great speaking with you. Thank you for your time. Best of luck for February 27th. And like I say, I might upset some people by saying this, but I hope you come out with the win, as I always do.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate it. We'll talk soon.
Okay, now it's time for part 2 on this week's podcast. This part, of course, I was going to say the news. We did that, of course. It was very brief in part 1. The preview part, we're going to start here. There's really not much to go over. 2 cards taking place in Mexico this Saturday, February 6th. We're going to start here. Oh, baby. This is my opportunity to give some fantastic Spanish Mexican pronunciation, Eddie. Sit back and get ready for this. Are you ready for this?
I'm ready to learn.
This one takes place at the Polideportivo Sur in a place I can't pronounce, in Mexico. But anyway, the main event. What on earth is he doing over there? But he is fighting over there. The return of Austin No Doubt Trout, 32-5 with a draw in a 10-round contest against Juan Armando Garcia, who is 21-7 with 2 draws. A 10-rounder there for Austin Trout in Mexico. A bit strange. I like Austin Trout because I'll tell a little story now. I think he was the first world champion that we ever had on the podcast. I think it was back in...
Really?
Yeah, I think it was back in late 2015. 2015. And I believe he was the first world champion we ever had on the show. And I think it was like episode 8 or something like that. Here we are, episode 277. So, I was really excited because he was a big name. He was a guy that had been in there with Canelo and the rest of it. And we did the interview. And then afterwards, when the interview finished, I thanked him. I put the phone down. Then I realized that I didn't hit the record button. So that was back in the very amateur days. Well, it still is quite amateur. I mean, I don't know who I think I am, but anyway, we got him back on to redo it, and I was really I felt really stupid. And since then, we've had him on a bunch of times. He's a nice guy, Austin Trout. All the best to him. And talking of nice guys, we move over to another part of Mexico at the Pátzcuaro in Michoacán de Ocampo. Over here, topping the bill, not just fighting on the card, but also promoting the show. Former IBF 154 world champion Carlos Molina, one of my good friends, 36-11 with 2 draws. He's in a 10-rounder against Edgar Ortega, who's 18-11. That's over 10 rounds. On the undercard, Sonny Fredrickson, 21-3 in an 8-rounder against Jose Canales. And Adrian Granados makes a strange appearance on the undercard. 20-8 with 2 draws, Granados. He steps in against Nestor Fernando Garcia, who's 23-22 with 1 draw. It's good to see Carlos Molina get some names on the undercard, Sonny Fredrickson and Adrian Granados in particular. But that's it for the very brief preview part of the show. that wraps up all the talking pretty much from me. The final thing to do, though, is to go to you, Eddie, with this episode or this edition of the Lockdown Knockdown. It's been away for a couple of weeks, but we return with it here. I'll let you lead the way. I don't think there's too much depth to go into, so I'm hoping that we've got enough time to go through maybe all of the fights that you had over here, but you're the man in charge. We're going to, well, just after the Machunu loss at Cruiserweight, which was 2013. However, in March of 2014, you'd end up fighting in Newcastle, which no one could have seen coming. Tell us about how it all started.
Yeah, well, man. And the funny thing is I had talked to Peter actually in camp with Tyson. It's the first time I met him. He was such a great guy. One of the best men I've ever met, to be honest, man. He's an awesome dude. You hear so many things about guys, being that those guys are travelers and all of that. And, they're crazy. They do that, but they're great people. Every one of the ones I met are great people. And they accepted me just like I was family. So, and, he talked to me and obviously wanted me to work with Tyson. So I'm sparring with Tyson, getting ready for the whole David Haye debacle, the whole craziness that went on with that. And he says to me, he's like, look, man, I've watched so many of your fights. I've seen what you've done. And man, you got so much talent. You got so much this and that, man. It's like, you ever think about if you really want to go at it, man, we can bring you in and have you work with us. And I'll make sure you're in the best of shape and you're able to do everything you need to do to get in the ring and get you back on top. I thought about it. Obviously, I didn't have a lot working here, and it seemed like a great option for me. So I went, I talked to my family, the family that I would talk to, and up here, which is actually not actually blood family, but they were as close to me as anyone. Talked to Steve a little bit about it. Talked to my girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife. She's like, I think it's a good idea. It's more opportunity in that than here at the time. Say, go on ahead go about and do what you got to do. So, hopped on a plane and flew on over to what at first I thought was going to be England. He tells me, no, we're in the south of France training. So I'm like, oh man, the south of France. I heard about France, but all I could think about is how much I hate flying. So that means I'm gonna have to probably end up taking 2 planes, and that just didn't sound good to me. But just the idea of being in Cannes, France was a good thing. So so I leave, and I think I forget where I think I had to change planes. But anyway, I end up in France with the guys, and I had no idea what was coming. I mean, I had no idea. I'm thinking, oh, these are heavyweights. I've trained hard as anyone my entire career with my dad. Think about the training and the things I've done with my dad and things I've done with Bashir and just in general. I've trained like a maniac. So I'm expecting this to be just, a bunch of heavyweights. What are they going to be doing? This is going to be like a vacation training for me. Once I get back in shape, it's going to be too easy. Man, once I start talking to them and when I was in camp with them not Brussels, I can't even think where we were. I can't remember where we were. But when I was in camp with them for the Haye fight, I was doing 2-a-days, because that's what I would normally do. And I would see them in the gym at times where I was in the gym, and then I would also, we would spar, but sometimes they say you could come in the gym and work out. On days you don't have to spar too. So I was like, all right, cool. And I would still see them. So I'm like, all right, they seem to, work decent. You know what I mean? I don't really know. I don't really see them doing the weights because I didn't really see him doing a lot of lifting and all that when I was there. But then I get to France and I'm talking to Peter and we're all discussing what we're going to be doing. It's like, yeah, he took me for a ride in one of his cars, one of the real nice car he had at the time. And which I'm pretty sure he got nice clothes now too. But anyway, and we were just talking. He was letting me know, he was putting me down on a lot of things that was going to be happening and how I had to be prepared mentally and, a lot of the things that we're going to be doing. And like I said, it was a good, big brother / mentor type talk, which I appreciated. And once we sat down and he started mentioning some of the things we were going to be doing, he was like, yeah, we train 3 times a day. And I'm like, whoa, what? And he's like, oh yeah, we train 3 times a day. And I was like, you train 3 times a day? Now, I haven't done this since I was doing it with my dad, and we didn't do it every day. He said, no, we train 3 times, 5 days a week, twice on Saturdays, 2 times on Saturdays. And I'm sitting there like, really? And I'm like, all right, man, these are still heavyweights. In my mind, I'm still like, these are still heavyweights. I don't think they're going to work as hard as, as I work, so I'll be able to outwork them. Day one, we get into the going to do our run, and they had this thing where we on one day a week we ran these stairs, and I'm gonna tell you, it was one of the hardest things I've done in a long time. And I thought that it was just like, oh, we sprint up the steps, we come back down, and then we take a break. No, these steps seemed like a mile up, and they were steep as well. It just seemed like it kept going on forever. So, but then when I got to the top, I came back down. I'm thinking, okay, that's one lap. He's like, oh no, you got to keep going. Now, keep in mind, on the first the first one I did, I'm flying up the steps because at that time I'm like 195, and everybody else there is, in mid to high 200s. So I'm like, damn, I didn't realize I can still keep going. And I never ever stop and walk running. I don't care how tired I get. Generally, I would just, slow the pace down and maybe find another thing I can do, but I'll continue to run or move, right? I had to stop. This is the first time ever that I remember training where I actually had to stop and walk. And I had to literally throw the towel in to a degree because I couldn't go back up the steps. I tried to go back up. I took a little bit of a rest. I just had no more. I had no more left. I've never experienced that in my entire career until I got with them. So I'm thinking, all right, I'm just out of shape. So we go in, we lift. And I didn't realize how, because I didn't really lift a lot up to that point, from before. Because I was doing, mostly when I was home, I was after because I probably took a few months off after that Machuno fight before I went over to France in the beginning of the next year, 14. So I didn't really do much with weights or with any of that stuff. I was just playing a lot of ball. So when I got there and we was doing weights, man, I could barely do any of the things that I used to do. You know what I mean? My bench was weak, squat was weak, my deads, all of the things that I'm used to being strong at was weak. And not to mention, these guys didn't take no breaks. They really didn't. It was superset everything. And I'm like, what the hell is going on? So I'm thinking like, all right, well, this is where they're supposed to be dominant at. They big guys, they supposed to be able to do weights and be strong, right? So then we get with the boxing. Then I get into boxing and it's like, they just never stop. And I'm looking at Tyson, who had 3 tires around his waist with fat. And I'm like, how is this dude still moving? Like, I've never seen a guy that big that had no shutdown. Like his body just was not indicative of what he was. Like, he is a specimen when it comes to his energy, his motor. I couldn't believe it. I'm like, this dude is still, he on the bag after, like, I don't know how many rounds of what we were doing. We didn't spar that day, but this dude is just punch after punch. I'm like, what the hell is he on? I'm like, man, he got to be drinking something or on something like crack or something. Like, what's up with this dude? Like, I couldn't believe it. And he's 290-something pounds and 6'9". And I'm like, man, this is crazy. And the sparring, once I started sparring with him and doing some of the other cardiovascular, it just didn't get no better. It was like that experience coming over to France was the hardest thing I've ever experienced in my entire career, really my entire life when it comes to the boxing. And of course, I've been in camps, like major camps, getting ready. I fought a title fight before I came over there. You would have thought I would have met my match as far as how hard things have been in the past. But up to this point, I hadn't ever experienced. I've been to other professional camps. I've been to Klitschko, John Ruiz, Hassan Rahman, all of these guys, and they all look at me and say, hey, you work pretty hard. Man, when I got out there with those guys, they really showed me something that I hadn't seen in my entire career. And I appreciated it. At the time, I didn't, because every night I would be sleeping, and it was 3 of us in a little room, even though it was a beautiful place. It was 3 of us in a little room, and these two guys I'm sleeping with are not in the same bed, but near us. They're both 6'5" plus. So I'm like, man, I got to find a little corner in the room to sleep on, and the bed was on the floor, and I'm in the worst pain I've ever experienced in my life. I literally, if I laid down in any position I laid down in, I could not move all night. I would literally wake up exactly the same position because every motion felt like somebody was taking a knife and literally ripping my muscles apart. That's how bad the pain was to me. I couldn't believe it. It took me so much. Every day I came back from a workout, I was like, man, I was trying to figure out in my mind how I was going to talk to Peter and tell him that I can't take this no more, man. I got to go home. And I said, you know what, I'm going to do it today, man. I'm just going to tell him today. And then I would talk to my girl, and at the time we was thinking that maybe she might have been pregnant. And I was thinking like, man, I was like, screw it, man. I'll stay for a couple more days. Maybe it'll get better. And it wouldn't get no better. And I was like, damn, man, I'm going to tell him tonight. And I just didn't tell him. And then I just went. Then eventually I started to get a little bit better, but the pain was still there. And I just said, you know what, man, I ain't going to be no punk. I've been to the highest of highs in this sport. Well, not the highest of highs, but close. And, I've dealt with it, and I've dealt with a lot of other adversity. I can deal with this. So that's the only thing that kept me there, was I had to literally have a positive self-talk, which I normally don't. And normally I'm always talking bad about how I'm doing. But this time I had to literally talk myself into staying. And I had to be positive about everything. And I just did it. I dreaded getting up every day doing some of those things, especially after in the beginning when my body was getting adjusted. It was the hardest thing I've ever done. But fast forward to my first fight. And my first fight was after we came back to England. France was the hardest experience ever. England was still hard when we got here. Here, like I'm there now, but like when we got to England, which was we were in, I think, Manchester at the time, or close by Manchester, and it was still real hard. They had the gym on the land they had, and we were staying in the caravans and everything. It was actually an enjoyable experience. That part wasn't crazy. I had my video games in there, had my own little space. It was nice. It wasn't terrible. A lot of people would say, "Oh, I would never be able to stay." Man, it was luxury. In one of those things. It was just you by yourself. So it was actually not that bad. I don't say that bad. It was good, actually. And everything was cooked. Everything was, all of your meals were prepared. It was just a real professional thing. But it was still very difficult. We still had a very similar schedule. No, the same schedule. So, my body started to finally get used to it a little bit more. And I've never seen my body look the way it did when since I've been there. Even before that, I've never been that defined. I've never been that strong. And I've never been that confident, to be honest, with the exception of when I fought Tomas from Bashir. But I've never been that confident in what I could do. You know what I mean? Because my body I couldn't believe how much of a machine I was at the time. It was just like, wow, So for the things that, don't get me wrong, it was hard. And I didn't hate him, but I hated the experience at the time. Now I love it. Because now it really tells you like how far you are really able to go. A man can always do more than he thinks he can, and that situation completely solidifies that. That's 100% true. But anyway, so we finally get a fight. With when I say finally, the whole purpose for before me for me to get to actually fight over there was to get myself in the best shape possible, get prepared properly before I was to have any fight. You know what I mean? I got to make sure that the product is basically finished when I'm in the ring. You know what I mean? And that's what that's the picture that Peter painted for me. So once I was coming into my own, first fight was scheduled. And right away, people saw my body and was like, yo, man, they need to test his urine because they had never seen me like that before. Even myself, I'm thinking like, man, what am I eating over here? You know what I mean? It was like a real question. Like, what is this? This is crazy. But I did the weigh-in, and I'm on the scale, and I looked at the pictures, and I even look at the pictures now. When I look back, I'm like, man, I had the oblique muscle. I had everything. Like there was not an ounce of fat that I can recall that was on my body. I was in the mirror in the hotel. Like just marveled. I couldn't believe what had happened. Like, and I couldn't thank him so much. I couldn't thank him any more than I did. But damn, it was unbelievable. And then I got in there to fight, and the mobility. I still had mobility. I still had explosive speed, but then I had explosive power too. Like I would hit guys, and even in camp when we were training, you would hit guys, and you would just see it in their face. Like, ooh, man, they said this dude couldn't really punch. He was a little guy. He's knocking houses down. Like even with my man, the Highlander, Gary Cornish, he was saying, man, they talk about a lot of these other guys' punching power, man. It's like, you and Tyson actually have really good punching power. And I'm like, man, I can't believe you put me in that conversation. He was like, yeah, you're punching now. I was like, man, I couldn't believe it. These things were happening, like, and he said this would happen. So I was like, wow, you know what I mean? This is the experience. This is what I needed. And the only thing that I'll say about the whole scenario that was tough was that it was hard sometimes. Like, the conditioning, as hard as we worked and as much as we trained, even when I fight sometimes, because there's so much muscle, so much oxygen that need to be put in them, that I would start to blow a bit. Pause. I would start to blow air a little bit. Like, I would need, I needed more oxygen. It was like sometimes I was getting a little tired, just through, because of the need for more, oxygen in the muscles and blood in the muscle. So I feel like I would, get a little fatigued, but I was so explosive, man. It was just unbelievable. And I got in there with the first guy, which was Tomas Mazurek. A really nice guy. I felt bad about what I did to him. But I ended up stopping him, which was, I think, the first time in a while. Up to that point, he had been stopped. And I looked at his face, and, man, I felt terrible. So terrible, because he was such a nice guy. And I had literally beat him, it looked like to within an inch of his life. You know what I'm saying? And it was like his eyes, both eyes were swollen. His nose, his ears, it was just so bad. And, they stopped it. They didn't have to stop it, but, I mean, even though it was in the last round, I was still kind of glad they did, because, man, he was just taking so much punishment. I don't think he should have been in there for another second, because it just looked really, really bad, his face and everything. But, and then, so after that fight,
hang on. Let's just stay on that fight for 1 second. Tomas Mazurek, who a lot of guys over here know, there's a bit of a kind of, I suppose there's a bit of competition, seeing as you went over to the UK, you join up with Huey and Tyson. They both fought him. They didn't stop him. You did.
Yeah, you know what? And as soon as it happened, I seen Tyson was doing commentary at that time for the fight, and I pointed right at him like, I got him. You ain't getting. You know what I mean? Now, granted, did I really stop him, or did they just kind of give me a mercy?
You did stop him.
I don't know, Joe.
What are you talking about? It's a TKO. Did he hear the final bell? No, he didn't.
Yeah, that's true.
Stop being the nicest guy. Stop talk some trash. No, I'm joking.
No, but I did get him though, and I'll say that to Tyson now. I did stop somebody you did, even though he stopped people. So, it's cool.
Let me just say, Mazurek has been in there with he's been in there with everyone. I'm gonna list you the guys that he's been in with that are big name guys that never stopped him when you did. Do you want to hear this list?
Let me hear it. I'm ready to hear it. I want to feel good about myself.
Yeah, get ready to smile big. So here we go.
Oh, you're doing it.
He went the distance with Marius Wack. He went the distance with obviously Tyson Fury. He went the distance with Carlos Takam. He went the distance with British champion Sam Sexton. He went the distance with Huey Fury. He went the distance with Otto Wallin. He went the distance with Tom Schwartz. And he actually beat Danny Williams, of course. So there you go, man.
That's why I'm smiling real big now, because I did something that they couldn't do inside. One of them didn't even beat him.
Exactly.
But you know what?
Mike, listen. Danny Williams beat Mike Tyson. Danny Williams lost to Tomas Mazurek. You stopped Tomas Mazurek.
Yeah, I'm better than Mike.
That's
right?
it.
That just sounds funny. Nobody would ever want to hear that. Trust me. They'd be like, man, what? Yeah, hell no. Nobody would ever want to hear that. But, I mean, look, the experience just being into that moment, and then Tyson going to give me a princess birthday cake, which was great, because that was on my actual birthday, that fight, I think. And he gives me a princess birthday cake, which actually tastes pretty damn good, because I ate it. Believe me. You think I'm going to turn down some sweets? I ate it. Absolutely. Say what you want to say. But I had the body at the time to deal with it, so I wasn't tripping. But after the fight was over and after everything was done, 2 weeks later, I want to say 2 weeks later, I had another fight scheduled, if I'm not mistaken, with another very durable, tough guy that not this time Tyson didn't fight him, but Huey had fought and didn't get him out of there. I think he had only up to that point had been stopped on cuts. I think you told me that, Joey. I think he had only been stopped on cuts, and he had never been stopped actually by being knocked out in a fight. Now, I don't know his resume, but I heard he had fought a lot of guys, and that's, of course, Moses Matuva. You remember him, right?
Yeah.
And I think he was my next fighter. Right. So, and the funniest thing about that fight is, and like I said, the work at that point has started to become a little bit smoother, and I've been becoming a little bit more comfortable with it. But I still, it's still a bit of a struggle. It's still hard work. It's crazy hard work. But I remember in the dressing room, and even as funny as on my Instagram right now, if you look at what we were working on in the dressing room, is exactly what I knocked him out with. And the first thing is, and it wasn't and this is the craziest thing, a guy like him who never gets stopped gets knocked out in the first round by a guy who's not even a puncher, supposedly. And me, which that just shows how much of a difference me being there made. Because I feel like if I would have been been over here and training like I trained here and doing what I've done in the past year, that I probably would have gone the distance with him. But because of what we've been working on and such a focus and such an eye on detail, and also detail with your physical training, that I was able to land that shot. It was a simple thing, and it seemed like it was simple, like it was a normal thing. But the feint, the jab, and to throw the right hand, and it just worked to perfection. Caught him, and he instantly went out. And I think he went out with the right hand, and I woke him back up with the other shots that I threw, and he just was completely out of commission. He couldn't really do much, and he couldn't get up or anything. And that literally happened within what? I know Joe, like what? Within a minute or so of a few minutes of the first round, I think it was.
1 minute.
Like I don't
10.
remember moving.
1 minute 10.
Yeah, see what I mean? Like, that's crazy. And it's the kind of thing that like I couldn't believe it. I'm sitting there like, I mean, at the time I was like, yeah, whatever. But then when you look at, he has never been knocked out before, and I'm like, damn. Even though I'm, another level than he is, it's still like, damn, this guy has never been knocked out. And he's been in there with good guys. Obviously been in there with Huey. Look where Huey has been now. You know what I'm saying? It's like, wow, it's a hell of a thing, man. It's an experience, and it does a lot for my psyche anyway, to make me feel good about myself, right, Joe?
Yeah, he never got stopped in the first round ever again. I think he's retired now. He hasn't boxed since 2015, so I guess that's the end of that. But 5 wins. 64 losses, 4 draws, but he only got stopped 7 times, and only once in the first round, which was you. He boxed Huey Fury on 2 occasions. He went the distance with him twice. He went the distance with Gary Cornish as well. And he went the distance with Cash Ali. He's another guy. He went the distance with Simon Valili. Went the distance with Dave Allen.
Yeah, that's right, Dave. Shout out to Dave. I want to make sure he knows that too, because he was always talking about my power in the gym. So, well, no, he always talk about how short I am, because he always called me 5'11", which is not fair.
Yeah. And also, what was funny as well, just not to sidetrack or anything, but obviously we had Chris Bird on last week's show, and I said, how do you think the fight would have gone between you and Eddie? And Chris Bird said Chris Bird is 6 foot, but he said that Eddie was shorter than him.
And I couldn't believe he said that. I'm like, dog, we met. I see you in person twice. And yo, you definitely ain't taller than me. Like, what? And like, I was like, why do you keep saying I'm shorter? Like, I hate that. It's like, if people see me and instantly they think small guy, because maybe it's because I was lighter. And when he seen me in camp with Hassan Rahman, I was like really light. I was like 190. I was like 190, like 95 or something like that. And because I was going back and forth, I was like trying to keep my weight down and really be in shape at the time. But anyway, I just can't believe you said I'm shorter. That's all.
But yeah, go on.
Okay, back on track now. After the Moses Matuva, now I got to think, what was after that?
Carl Baker.
Carl Baker, right? Because I was thinking, like, did I fight again in a month, or was it? And then I realized, yeah, Carl Baker was right before I took the break and went back home for a little while and came back.
You know who was on the card that night, right?
Who was on the card that night?
Junior Witter was on the card that night.
Oh, he was?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that was his card, I think. Wasn't that his card? Yeah, that was his card. Yeah, I remember that.
I don't know if it was his card, but he was on the undercard, I think. He was only fighting a guy with a losing record, actually. But obviously, Junior Witter, man, he was a great fighter in his time.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I'm like, wait, dang, really? I thought I thought he was headlining. Oh, maybe not. I can't really remember. But I remember that it was a Channel 5, I think it was, Channel 5. And I was fighting Carl Baker. And this was one fight.
Oh, let me just quickly say, the Moses Matovu fight, I was at that card.
You were?
Yeah. When you boxed Moses Matovu, yep, I remember it now. It's just rung a bell. I remember running in there. I was a bit late, and I think you were like the first fight on or something, and you stopped him in the first round. I got there when the fight finished, and I was like, when are you fighting? And you said, I've already had my fight. Oh, my God. And you know why I was late, right?
Like, what? No,
I'm going to just leave it up to you to make a guess. You know how females in your life really take a lot of time getting dressed and stuff? Getting ready to go? And I'm gonna remind her of that, actually, because she is the reason. That's it, Eddie. You should have put the smackdown on her when you saw her last year, because it was her damn fault.
No, you know what? I couldn't do that, because then she would probably put the smackdown on me, and then I can't do nothing back. So I'm just gonna go ahead and keep my mouth shut. How about that?
So I actually missed the Moses Matovu fight. I was there just after it finished, and that's when I think you. No, you didn't do any commentary that night, but that was a. Oh, did you?
No, I think I did.
Okay.
I think I did.
Yeah,
I did.
I've got a feeling you did. Yeah. But that was the night. There was a few upsets because Frank Buglioni got knocked out bad that night. He lost his undefeated record. So did a young guy called Georgie Keane. He got beat. He didn't get knocked out.
Right.
And
I remember that.
Yeah, Chris Eubank Jr. was on the card that night as well. Yeah.
Yep.
But anyway, sorry. Back to Carl Baker. Sorry, Eddie.
But what happened then? Oh. So after that fight, I mean, I'm pretty hot. And then Tyson had took a break up to that point. So Tyson was off for like, I don't know, maybe a couple of weeks, something like that. He had went away with his family, whatever. And, had a little vacation because he had just fought. He had just beat Derek Chisora. No, not Derek Chisora. I'm sorry, Joey Abel. And I did commentary for that one, too. He had stopped Joey Abel. I forget what round. But so he took a little break. And at this point, I was hitting my stride. I felt like at this point, I could beat everybody. You know what I mean? With the exception of, obviously, Tyson, that would have been a tough fight. But the rest of them, and that includes Vladimir, in my opinion, at the time, they would have really had a hell of a hard time with me at the time, because I was on the level I should have been when I was fighting him the first time. If I would have had this kind of team behind me, not saying that the team I had wasn't good and they weren't great, but it was just that we didn't have enough what's the word I'm looking for? Enough experience at that level with the trainer, with just the whole process. My manager was, he had been in the game for a long time and he understood things about boxing, but we needed more professionalism. We needed more information in the corner. That's what we needed. We just didn't have it. And we didn't have it in the training camp as well. So we were doing things that were dated. And that's why, Vladimir was able to do what he did. And I just couldn't, at to that point, compete with him. But at this point with Peter, 100%, I feel like I would have had, I have the confidence. I had the confidence at that time and the ability at that time and the size and the strength and the power that I would have had him. He would have been in trouble. It wouldn't have been an easy situation. He would have had the hope to have caught me, you know what I mean, somewhere early in the fight. Because if not, I would have definitely been all over him. And not the way he would want me, you know what I mean? Want me to be. So, but back to the whole Carl Baker thing. And this was the one fight that I had in all of my career that I can remember where I was not nervous. Like I really didn't have really any nervousness really. Like I have never in my career ever had been to a situation like that before, where I wasn't nervous. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You know, he didn't really have a long career or anything. He actually retired after your fight with him. He never boxed again. And
Carl Baker?
Yeah, he never boxed again after losing to you. But I remember him mainly from fighting Derek Chisora, where Derek Chisora kissed him on the lips at the weigh-in.
Oh yeah, most people remember him from that.
Yeah. And he also he did his best win of his career was he beat Danny Williams as well.
I'm not trying to crap on his career, like saying that's not a good thing for him, but I mean he did. You know what I mean? He did, but I remember that fight, and I just remember that how I wasn't nervous, and I knew him. We had actually sat and talked and had at length, me and him and Dave, because I was hanging out with Dave, and I was up at Dave's. I think I went to his house in Leeds, and we were hanging out, and we went to a fight, and we saw Kell Brook, saw a couple other guys that we knew. Not that I know him personally, but I mean, it's a fighter, and was like, dang. Talking about just different things that were going on and we had a nice conversation. Like, he was a cool dude. And then thinking was like, I think that might have been like 2 weeks before we fought, or 3 weeks before we fought. Fast forward 3 weeks, and we get ready to fight each other. And he sees me at the place, because I don't know for sure I can't remember for sure if we were sharing the same dressing room, because they had a bunch of, I think they had most, or if not all, the fighters in the same area. You know what I mean? Getting prepared. I think they might have. No, you know what? No, they had 2 rooms. That's right. They had 2 rooms. And but I would periodically go out, into the area. I don't want to know, lobby or whatever, to go to the, use the bathroom or whatever. And I would see him, and he was warming up and all of that. And I'm just looking like, damn, this is crazy. I'm fighting this guy, and I just literally had a nice conversation with him like the other day. It's just weird. And we had no clue. The crazy thing, though, was that he took the fight. I was surprised that he took the fight, because that was like, first of all, it was short notice, obviously. And, he didn't look like he was ready to fight. That obviously, it's another obvious thing. But from my understanding, he was always like that. So obviously that's why his name was the Refrigerator, if I'm not mistaken. Was that what the fridge? I think that's what they called him. So, he's already fairly tall, about 6'4", you know what I mean? But then on top of that, this dude is 300 and something pounds. But like I said, at the time, I had a different body. I was a lot stronger, a lot more explosive. Power was a lot greater. So, when we get in the ring and I'm not nervous. So at this point, I'm literally just, in my zone, in my element, just about to go in there and just handle business. And I really never felt worried about anything. And I just remember the shots that I was landing on him, to the body mainly. They were just like, you could see his body waving up, like it was hit by a bolt or something. Like, it was like boom, and I was like, damn, man, this guy's still standing. Like, he didn't take a knee off of that body shot. Like, I remember one of the right hands to the body I threw at him. And the only thing is, of course, he's a southpaw, but the shots that were thrown to the head was just missing, or just short. They were not catching him clean like I wanted to catch him. If I would have caught him clean, gone immediately, one shot, in my opinion. That's how I felt at the time. But I just couldn't catch him 100% clean. Like, I think I caught him one time and hit him in the eye, and he commented on it after the fight saying basically, yeah, you did that on purpose, poking me in the eye. But the reality of it was I just couldn't catch him clean. But of course, after the third round, I think was it 3 rounds? Did we even go 3 rounds? I can't remember.
You stopped. Yeah, you retired at the end of the third.
Yeah, and I was going at him. I was trying to get him out of there. Like, I was trying to get him out of there quick. You know what I mean? More merciful than like letting him sit around and beat on him. But it was just like, wow, he's just a little bit further than I was expecting to land that shot. So maybe has a little bit to do that he has some savvy as a fighter. Obviously, he's been around. He's fought some guys. He's just because he's a big guy doesn't mean he doesn't know how to fight. Obviously, right? But it was crazy. It was strange that I wasn't able to land the shot I wanted, and I felt like he got out of the fight before actually taking a shot from my full power. It was just he was just slightly out of the way. So he survived that, which I'm actually happy for him. He was a nice guy, and I wish him all the best from now on. Obviously, he's not fighting no more, which is a good thing. But it sucks that we had to fight. But that's the way the game goes. Sometimes you fight people you're cool with. But anyway, after that, I went back home for a bit. Spent time with the family, which was needed. I needed a little bit of decompression type thing. We were working so hard. So, and then I came back. Maybe within I think it was 19 days or so. Came back, and the next fight that was to be set was on the Tyson Fury, Derek Chisora 2 undercard, and we were looking for.
No. Nascimento came first, didn't he?
Yeah, but no.
Oh, okay.
He was actually. We were supposed to fight on that card.
Okay.
Me and Nascimento were going to fight then.
Okay.
On the Tyson Fury
Chisora 2 undercard, yeah.
But then I think Chisora pulled out, and then it was the big guy was going to be Tyson's opponent, and I was going to fight Nascimento. I can't remember what happened. I know Tyson's uncle had gone through some things, and then Peter wasn't going to be there because they were dealing with Peter's brother, and it was a crazy situation that they had, and they weren't sure if he was going to make it. Or his uncle, I think, might have passed at that point.
Yeah, he did, yeah.
And so we ended up taking a leave, and the whole card, it just, I don't know why. I can't remember what happened, but I don't know why my fight fell out. I can't remember why I fell out. But Nascimento I ended up not being able to fight him, and they were actually at one point offering, hey, would you want to fight in the main event with the main event guy? And I was thinking about taking it, but before we can really, say whether or not we wanted it, they declined it. So we just said it was probably for the best just to let it go, even though I felt like that might have been an opportunity for me to really show out. But anyway, so I come back, we trained all hard, we did all that stuff, and then end up finding out that there wasn't going to be a fight. So everything was okay, with money and all, everything was good. So I ended up going back again for about a month home. Then when I was set to come back, when I came back, we got back into the fold. And I remember, man, we had been training so hard for such an extended period that my body had started to break down. And I got a little cold. And I had it, I swear, for 2.5 months. And, it was what's wrong with me? But it was just my body wasn't getting enough recovery. And we were working so hard. I wasn't sleeping enough when I was there. And it just wasn't, it wasn't what I was hoping for as far as how I felt when I came back. Sparring wasn't great right away. It took a while for me to get back acclimated again. Even though it was only a month, and I was still working out, I was still training, my body just started to give, man, because you can only peak for so long. And I was hoping for a whole year-long peak, and that's just not likely, especially not when you're not resting enough, So, I remember, and then we're sparring. I'm getting ready for Nascimento, which was, I think, within a 2-week period from, at this point. And I remember me and my man, Arfan Iqbal, my main man from over there that we were sparring on. Small guy, 175-pounder, but one of the toughest kids ever, man. He'll get in there and spar with the heavyweights and actually hold his own. But I'm in there sparring with him, and I threw a left hook, and he throwing it at the same time. Pop, hit me right in the bicep area, right around where the tendon meets the shoulder. Popped it. So now I'm like, oh man, frustrated. Now the fight might fall out again with this guy Nascimento. I'm like, what is it with this guy that we can't seem to get this date locked in? But I waited. Peter had one of his guys come give me some deep tissue work on my shoulder. Pause, massage. And so, it started to feel better. Still a bit of an issue, but it started to feel better. I still didn't, err on the side of caution. I try not to throw it in training. And I was me and Tony Bellew had sparred. He had helped me. He had come to help me out a couple times for the fight I was having. So, and I was in there sparring with Tony, trying to spar with him with one hand. You know what I mean? Because I just didn't want to risk messing up the shoulder anymore or my bicep anymore. And it tore from the top. So it wasn't like it was when I tore it from the bottom. We talked about it earlier, where it was like, I couldn't use it. I was still able to move it and use it. It was actually just the outside part, which is more of a cosmetic thing. I mean, don't get me wrong. It has some strength tied into it, maybe 10% less, but I had to deal with it anyway. So, I'm trying to spar. I'm trying to fight. I mean, I'm trying to spar with, with just my right hand and all of those things. And, I was able to deal with it. We figured, hey, this guy we're fighting is not no world beater. So, we'll be able to get in there and handle business. I should be able to get him out of there. Man, it was just one of the worst performances I felt like I gave in a long time up to that point. Even when I lost the fight with Machunu, I just felt like, I fell in love with my power up to that point. To be able to just hit him and see the reaction to get him out of there. And what he did was, just to figure out a way to survive, would just literally hold the whole time and run and then hold, run and then hold. And it was like, what the hell is going on? And I couldn't use my left hand like I wanted because I didn't trust it. It was good, but I didn't trust it. So I ended up getting an 8-round decision. And if you see the interview from, after the fight was over, and by the way, Joe, you were there. you saw the fight. You were actually on the ring walk with me. And I just said it's like one of the worst days, man, I've had in a long time. One of the worst days of my life, I think, is what I said. And it was just like, you do all of this work and you come in and you give this kind of effort. And it wasn't that I wasn't trying. It was just I wasn't doing the things that I had trained to do. And I mean, a lot of it had to do with the bicep, but that's no excuse. I should have got him out of there. I fought great one time before without having my left hand. So I should be able to do it again. And it was less competition, you know what I mean? So, but things happen. We had to move on. So then
let's just talk about the guy's previous kind of history. Obviously, Nascimento was stopped by Tyson Fury in 5 rounds. He was stopped by Manuel Charr in 8. He lost to Solomon Hamuno. He got stopped by Joseph Parker 7 months before the fight he had with you. However, after the fight with you, he kind of really stepped up his competition as well. After the fight with you, he got stopped by Carlos Takam in 4. Sorry. He got stopped by Dillian White in 2, then Carlos Takam in 4. But after that, though, he goes on quite a run. He goes the distance but loses to Sergei Kuzmin, goes the distance but loses to Derek Chisora, goes the distance but loses to Johan Duapas, goes the distance but loses to Marius Wack, all in a row. None of those guys stopped him either. Unfortunately, though, these days he is 40 years of age and he's on he's on the worst run of his career. He's actually coming off 6 back-to-back stoppage losses. I think he's actually hung them up. Hasn't boxed for just over a year now. But anyway, sorry, Eddie.
No, that's all right, man. It's just like the way I felt, and don't get me wrong, he was inches from being out of there, and he could have been out of there at any point. But it's just
you had him down twice, I think.
Yeah. It was like, and he just kept. He
3
wouldn't
times.
let me go.
3 times.
Yeah. It was almost like he went down. It seemed like every damn round, but it was like I just couldn't finish the job. I just couldn't do it. He knew what was coming, and it was like, I don't know. It was an ugly fight. It was one of the worst ones. It was the worst one I've had when I being there, and it was my fault. Regardless of what happened and the injury I was suffering, it was still my fault. I could have got him out of there. I could have done better. Anyway, after that fight, I'm still battling this cold. Literally within a couple of weeks before I fought Dorian Darts, which was my last fight there, I just started to get over it. You know what I mean? I just started to get over it. But man, it was like my body was just it was just beat down, man. It was like 1 year of just non-stop, with the exception of maybe a month and 2 or 3 weeks of just hard training all the time. It was like there wasn't no mention of let's just make this a maintenance program here where we're just kind of keeping things up. No, it was balls to the wall the entire time, and I respected it. But my body had started to break down, and so I ended up getting ready to go and fight Dorian Darch. And I'm, at this point, I'm just like, man, I just want to feel good. You know what I mean? I just want to get in there and be able to perform, in a way that that can be respected, by me and by Peter and all of us who were looking at it. But and yes, the fight turned out to be better. Obviously, Dorian Darch, no disrespect to him, but he wasn't where I was, and at that point in my career and where I was going. So he was expected to get beaten. I ended up stopping him. I think within, was it four rounds?
3 rounds.
It should have been less than
that. Was the fight where they something went wrong with the audio and there was no ring walk music.
Right. That's not the first. That's the first time I think that happened, maybe. But yeah, and it was a good fight. It was a good experience. It was great. I did commentary again for the Chisora and Tyson fight too, the second one, because that was actually the card where they actually fought was Tyson and Chisora fought on that card. So it was a good night. You know what I mean? It obviously could have been better. I could have performed better. I could have performed better, but it was still not bad. It wasn't terrible. So, but the experience I had over there with those guys, will forever be remembered in my life and the history of my life. These guys, they treated me like I was a member of the family, and I was, and I'll be forever grateful for the experience. And if I decide to fight again, which I'm hoping I can soon, I'm just gonna be, I'm just gonna use, and the thing is, I've utilized a lot of the things I've learned there. You know what I mean? Diet, supplementation, just work ethic. Even though my work ethic was already good, they took it to another level. And now I understand me now, helping train guys and, things of that nature. I have an understanding of what it is and what it takes to be a high level athlete, not just being, gifted skill wise, like I was, I don't want to say gifted. Yeah, gifted. Let's say gifted skill wise and ability wise, being able to do some of the things I was able to do without being in this kind of condition that I'm mentioning with the guy with the Fury guys. But now understanding what it really takes and how to get there, it's like I said, I'll be forever grateful, and I'll always want to get, if I'm going to go back and fight, I would like to be like that. So my desire now is to get to where I was at that point. It's not going to be easy. Obviously, I'm a bit older now. But I was older then. The rest of the guys were 25 and around that time. So their ages were young. So, but yeah, it was a hell of an experience. I enjoyed the UK people, the UK fans, man. Like I said, I've had more fanfare there than I've ever had here in the States, man. And like I said, I'll forever look back on that time as a great time in my history.
Yeah, and like I say, the 2014 year for you was a good year. In total, you had 5 fights over here, 4 KOs. And yeah, it was positive. It was a good thing. I'm guessing next time we do this, because I think by the sounds of it, we're going to probably wrap this up. But the next time, or I guess we could just discuss it if it's going to be brief. But I remember during that time you were over here, there was the half chance of quickly jumping on a plane and boxing for some version of the heavyweight world title. Do you want to do that next time, or do you want to run into it now?
I can tell you, it was just like a little side note. I forgot to mention that. I was actually, I want to say that was in the summer, or no, that was right after I fought Moses Matuvu, I think, if I'm not mistaken, that we got that call, or that we found out that there was going to be a chance to fight maybe Ruslan Chikaev. And it was like, oh, because him and Fresno Kendo had fell through because Fresno Kendo for some reason couldn't make it to the to the fight. I don't know, something happened to him, something with his blood work. I don't know what it was. And they said, and Peter knew a guy who knew a guy, and said, hey, can you get us that fight? And it was literally 24 hours notice, maybe less. We were going to take a red-eye flight, middle of the night, get in the plane, get on the plane, go over there to Russia, and try to grab that title, while we could. And we were willing to take it. At that time, like I said, I hit my stride. It would have been no good for him. He would have got dismantled. And I'm not saying that, you know how I am, Joey. I'm not one of those guys, but he would have got dismantled. He would have got taken apart. It badly too. But I guess they realized that, and a lot of guys at that point had been watching us and seeing what we were doing. And we had the back and forth thing with me and AJ, talking crap back and forth to each other while we were over there. We actually seemed to be a cool dude. I had talked to him a little bit on Twitter, and he was like, "Yo, man, let's try to make it for some time in the future when I start to get myself to a level that I can, that I'm ready." And I said, "Cool," you know what I mean? So, but with the whole Chikaev thing, that would have been to all of a sudden just that quick snap of a finger, be heavyweight champion of the world just on a freak accident call. Or not, I don't say accident, or seeing that a fight fell through and just being able and prepared at that moment to jump in and take the reins and possibly become heavyweight champ it would have just been an awesome experience. Of course, I would have hated the flight, but I would have loved the fight. You know what I'm saying? It would have been an opportunity of a lifetime, and to be able to say, okay, I finally got a title. You know what I mean? Up to that point, it was like, man, I still look back on that time and I wish I would have been able to do it, but things happen for a reason, and it just it just didn't come through for me at the time.
Yeah, the flight would have obviously been so much shorter that you were over here, though, than it would have been if you got the call back home,
Yes.
Yeah.
And I was way better prepared mentally and physically. So the fight, like I said, he would have had a hell of a time dealing with me at that time, at that moment.
Yeah. Okay, well there you go. So next time, and we're coming to the end really of the of all the lockdown knockdowns. So I hope you've enjoyed them. Eddie has had to walk down memory lane, go in extreme depth for everyone, and there's not really much that hasn't been said. This is all the ins and outs behind all these fights. We've gone over every single one. Just 2 to go. Next time it will be. It'll be probably the last time, because it will just be 2 fights to mention, Galen Brown, and then of course Eddie's last fight up to date, Gerald Washington. We'll discuss those next time, and obviously we'll discuss the reasons behind Eddie actually leaving the UK in the end, because I don't actually know why you went back when you did, why you weren't here for longer. I don't really know that story. We'll get into that though next time. This has been another edition of the Lockdown Knockdown, Eddie's very own segment, and the final thing to do just before we wrap everything up is to welcome our second and final guest on this week's podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the undefeated super featherweight prospect. It is, of course, Mr. Malik Warren. Malik, welcome to the show, my man.
Hey, what's up, my guy? How you doing?
All good, my friend. How are you?
I'm doing good.
Excellent, Malik. It's great to have you on. So first things first, obviously you've only had a handful of pro fights, which means we have to go through each one of them, which I'm looking forward to doing. But Malik, firstly, you signed with Mayweather Promotions right out of the amateurs. Tell me how that happened for you.
I don't know, man. I guess they just like the way I performed my first fight, you know what I mean? They didn't have no other questions.
Okay. And you turned pro, like I say, in 2019, in July of that year against Devontae Macau, and on the Gervonta Davis Nunes undercard in Baltimore. It's not just Gervonta's hometown, it's also your hometown. What was that like to turn pro, not only on a world title undercard, which many people don't manage to do, but in your hometown? I'm guessing you must have brought a crowd with you that night.
Yes, sir. It was just great energy, man. When I went out, Iceman went out, you know what I mean? It was just great energy with everybody there, you know what I mean?
And in November of that year, you had your second fight, which took place this time in Vegas against Sean C. Perry. Tell me about that one.
It was good, man. It was a great experience. I actually fought out in Atlanta. My second fight, I fought out Vegas. But with him, that was a good fight, man. Chauncey Perry. You said Chauncey Perry?
Yes, sir.
Oh, yeah, that was out Vegas. I'm sorry, I apologize. Yeah, that was a great experience, man. I had not even been out Vegas before in my whole life. So that was just a great experience, just the experience.
Yeah, exactly. It's a brilliant thing that you've done because, like I say, you turned pro on a world title undercard. Your second fight, you're fighting in Vegas. This is amazing things if you're going to go on to be the star you want to be. Your third fight took place, obviously, in December, again of 2019, again on a world title undercard, on the undercard of Pascal and Jack, and, of course, Davis and Gamboa. This time, you boxed an undefeated guy, 3-0. Travion Butts. Tell me about that one, man. Your most recent win.
That was. I ain't gonna take away from the guy. He definitely had some power behind him, but that was, easy money. I ain't gonna lie to you. Straight easy money. And he said he was even gonna knock me out that fight too. But that was another great experience that I could get in. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That I went through.
And like we said, Malik, you're 3-0 now with 3 KOs. All 3 knockouts have come in the second round. Am I right in saying that your lucky number must be number 2, surely?
I guess so. That's crazy though, because my favorite basketball jersey number is number 2.
Wow. There you go. It's got to be your lucky number. But Malik, obviously, you, like the rest of us, have been affected, I'm guessing, by the coronavirus outbreak. Lifestyle stuff like that. What kept you out for so long? Because, like we said, your last fight all your fights took place in 2019. You've been out the ring for about 13 months now. You didn't have a fight in 2020 like most people did. What's it been like for you, man?
I just, I had to go through a little, just had to go through something, everybody got to go through something in their career, I don't care what you're doing. Just went through something, had a little bounce back, to be back on in 2021.
And I want to ask as well, during that time that everyone struggled, have you been able to, to keep in the gym regularly? Are you able to, stay around 130, which you were at, of course, before this all happened?
Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah, my flight for February 20 will be at 1:30.
Perfect.
Yes, sir. That's no problem.
Perfect. And that brings us on to February 20. It takes place, of course, in South Carolina. You'll be boxing Daron Merriweather. What should we as fans, Malik, expect to see from you come Feb 20?
Just a whole bunch of sharpness, you know what I mean? Just, hopefully sharper. Not even hopefully. Sharper than what my last 3 fights was. You know what I mean? I want to go out there and put on a show for the fans. They've been waiting this long to see me.
Yeah, and again, obviously you're coming off such a lengthy layoff because you had all those fights in quick, rapid succession, if you like, and you're saying that we're going to see sharpness there, which is amazing because again, that's the first thing that kind of goes when you've been a bit rusty, you've been out the ring. So I'm looking forward to seeing you come back. Am I right in saying, Malik, as well, you've also got a date penciled in for March 27th as well? Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and that's also in South Carolina.
No.
Oh, okay.
No. I don't know where the March 27th one will be, but I doubt it'll be in South Carolina.
Okay. So 2 fights back to back. I'm happy about this because again, you had all those fights in a rapid succession. Then there was this big break. It's normal, it's understandable, and you're back already with 2 fights lined up. I want to ask you, Malik, as well. I know that you've been around a variety of different gyms, I should say. Who have you managed to get in the ring with in the gym? I'm guessing you must have sparred some big names over the years.
Shout out to Big Bro, Javante Tank Davis. I had got some rounds in with Lorenzo Simpson, Iceman Hawkins, and different gyms. I had got some work with Jaron Ennis over the weekend.
Oh wow.
Otha Jones, Shane Jefferson. Who else? There's been a couple hits. You know what I mean? Couple hits over 2020 to keep me on my keep me sharp.
That's amazing, man. That's a great list that you've just reeled off there. You say that you most recently sparred with Ennis. What was that like?
It was a very good learning experience, man. Very good learning experience.
Okay.
I learned so much of it sparring the contender.
Okay, yeah, and that's great sparring. Like I say, Jaron Ennis is a guy that everyone's very high on. I want to ask you this as well, Malik. Who do you aspire to be like? Do you look up to anyone in particular? Is there perhaps another boxer that you look up to that you want to, perhaps take notes out of his journey and, use them for yourself moving forward?
I used to be the one to be like Javante Tank Davis so bad. But now I just want to be myself, man. I want to be the first Malik King Warren, you know what I mean?
Yeah. That's well said, man. I like that answer there. I want to ask you as well. You're at 130. Obviously, you're still it's very, very early on in your career. You know, you're only 20 yourself. You've had those 3 fights, all 3 by KO in the second round. What are your thoughts on the? I don't want to jump too far ahead, but what are your thoughts on the champions right now at 130, Malik?
I feel as though my face can be up there too. You know what I mean? I can't take nothing away from a champion. You know what I mean? But I definitely see myself up there with the greats or the belt holders, the title holders, and soon in the future.
Okay, my man. Great stuff. And, it's like I say, it's fantastic to have you on. We also had another Mayweather Promotions fighter on a couple weeks ago, which was Angelo Leo. It was great to have him on as well. I want to put you on the spot a little bit here, coming down to the last kind of real question, Malik. And I'm really putting you on the spot here, actually. I should have warned you about this one. Everyone that we speak to, everyone that we speak to from overseas, the listeners of this show love to know their answer to this one. Who comes to mind when I ask, who's your favourite fighter from the UK?
Damn. That is a good question. From the UK, I would have to go with United Kingdom. I honestly do not know, my guy.
It's all good.
It's nothing coming up to my mind. That's why. Can you list some fighters from the UK?
Yes.
I know Anthony Joshua was one.
Yeah, of course.
He's a pretty good fighter too, as well.
Yeah. Obviously, you've got Anthony Joshua. There's a bunch of guys from history. You're only young. You're only 20. But out of the current guys, I mean, okay, let's stick with Anthony Joshua. There's also Tyson Fury up there. I'm going to put you on the spot now.
Yeah, I like Tyson. Yep.
Who's your man out of those two?
I got Tyson Fury, man.
Okay. Why? Why do you think? Yeah. Why you got him in that one?
He's too exclusive, man. You know what I mean? He's just too exclusive. I feel as though that's definitely gonna be his night day.
Okay, we look forward to seeing it. Hopefully it happens. We'd love to see it. Myself and you, of course. And just finally, Malik, before we wrap it up, if you've got any closing words just to the listeners, I'm sure there's going to be guys over here listening to this who are going to start, wanting to jump on this bandwagon, because I can say it myself. This is a journey that everyone listening to me right now should want to be involved in. What is your message to your fans, to your future fans over here, and also let them know where to follow you as well on social media?
Okay, I would like to tell the fans, if you support me, I fight for you. You know what I mean? 100%. You know what I mean? But you can follow me on Instagram at Leak the Boxer, LeakTheBoxer, and on Twitter it's the same thing, Leak the Boxer with 2, LeakTheBoxer. The number 2.
Yeah, that again, I will repeat that. That's LEAK, Leak the, which is obviously THE, and then Boxer, BOXER 2. So you can follow Malik there on Instagram and Twitter.
Yes,
listen,
sir.
Malik, I wish you the absolute best of luck for the future. Thank you so much for your time and coming on this podcast. And I hope again that we can speak at some point in the near future, in the not too distant future, my friend.
Yes, sir, man. Thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it.
Okay, and this wraps up episode 277 of the BoxHard Podcast. I've been your host, Joey Coastman. Eddie Chambers has been with me for the duration of the show. A massive thank you to our 2 guests on this week's podcast, the reigning WBO Super-Featherweight World Champion Jamel Herring and the undefeated Super-Featherweight prospect Malik Warren. The biggest thanks of all, though, goes out to you, the listeners. Thank you once again for listening to this week's podcast. But that's about everything from myself. Enjoy your weekends, people. Stay safe, and we shall see you all again next week.